Welcome back. In the last video, we ended on a little challenge here, and that is we're going to start setting up a series of modeling experiments to programmatically track our food vision mini experiments. And the challenge I left was to set up 2 times modeling experiments with EfficientNet B0, so a feature extractor model, the pizza, steak, and sushi dataset we've been using, and one experiment would be for 5 epochs, and then another experiment would be training for 10 epochs, and then compare their results with TensorBoard. So I hope you gave that a go. If not, let's start moving towards setting up a series of modeling experiments. We're not going to do this one per se. We're going to set up a larger series of experiments because why not, right? Let's see what we can do. So 7.1, what kind of experiments should you run? So this is a little bit of an overview video. So we're just going to discuss some different options. So the number of machine learning experiments you can run is like the number of different models you can build. Almost limitless. However, you can't test everything, of course. So what should you test? So anything that you can imagine that is some form of hyperparameter, you can try to test. So change the number of epochs. You could change the number of hidden layers / units. You could change the amount of data. So right now, we're using 10% of the Food 101 dataset for pizza, steak, and sushi. You could increase that amount of data, or you could collect more data if it's not easily accessible to you. And this is actually one of the best things to do in terms of machine learning because generally more data equals better. And so if we go into the course GitHub, PyTorch Deep Learning, then if we go into extras, number 4, custom data creation. This is how I created the 10% pizza, steak, sushi dataset. So it creates a dataset like this. It uses Food 101 from Torch Vision, this one, or Food 101 here, and then creates a split. So we download the training data from PyTorch and then creates a split based on how much we dictate here. There's also a 20% split, but you could increase this as well if you wanted to run more experiments. The reason why I started small is because in machine learning, you want your first experiments to run quite quickly before you scale things up. Because if you scale things up and the compute takes a long time and it turns out to not work, well then you've wasted quite a bit of time there. So what we're doing is slowly progressing towards running a series of modeling experiments that run within a few seconds or a few minutes max before we go and use, say, the whole Food 101 dataset. And in fact, after we've covered everything in this section, that might be something that you go and try yourself. Then you can, of course, change the learning rate. Then you could try different kinds of data augmentation. There's really no silver bullet here. This is what we're going through in terms of what you should experiment with is actually possibly the main question of machine learning. What makes the best model? That's what all of the research is going towards in machine learning. How do you improve your models? So if you're looking at this and going, wow, there's so many things to keep track of, well, that's the wonderful world of machine learning. Choose a different model architecture. We've seen a fair few model architectures now in Torch Vision. Well, we haven't been hands-on with them, but we've seen that there's a fair few pre-trained models that we could try. We've only used EfficientNet. So maybe you want to try a different one of these. In fact, that's another good extension that you could try out. So if you want a visual overview of what we're doing, this is the model we started with so far. Potentially, we might use EfficientNet B2 or B1 or B3, increase this number, see if it does any better. Then, what experiments should you try? Just to reiterate, try to change the model architecture. Try to train for more epochs. So you might find that if you cut off here, your loss value could have actually gone lower if you trained for longer. Increase the amount of data you're using. Add data augmentation if your model is overfitting. Try mixing up the learning rate. Right now, we've just been using a stock standard Atom learning rate of 0.001, but you might want to change that to something else. Or even look into learning rate scheduling, which changes the learning rate over time. And then you can also change the number of layers/hidden units. So these two are closely tied together, model architecture and number of layers/hidden units. But truly, what experiments should you try? Well, all of these, plus any hyperparameter you can think of. So with that being said, there's a lot going on here in terms of experiments you should try, which is why I'm such a big advocate for using transfer learning. Because this is why transfer learning is so powerful, because it's a working model that you can apply to your own problem. So there's a few things to keep in mind. We're going to start designing some experiments around all of these over the next couple of videos. So I'll see you there.